It says, the members of the council were amazed when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, for they could see that they were ordinary men with no special training in the scriptures. They were just ordinary people. You know, I think oftentimes we read the New Testament and we see these guys, when we hear the title apostle and all this stuff, and we think, oh, they must be scholars. They must be powerful men and experienced people, men of stature, brilliant people. But think about it. This council would not have been amazed at their boldness if they already had a reputation for being bold. They wouldn't have been amazed at what they were doing. They wouldn't have been amazed at how well they could speak if these guys had been anything except ordinary. And they were just normal guys. They ran a fishing business down by the Sea of Galilee. They were just normal. Does that description fit any of us? Where you look at yourself and just go, man, I'm just normal. I'm just ordinary. I'm just another person, right? But look at what the council also said about these guys. It said they also recognized them as men who had been with Jesus. Now, I know that this council recognized that they were one of the 12 that followed Jesus around and all that. I know that's what that meant, but think of the implication of that, though. Think of the implication. They recognized them as people who had been with Jesus. It makes me want to ask of myself, what about me would make people think that I have been hanging out with Jesus? I mean, do I live in such a conspicuous way? Do I spend enough time with Jesus that who he is rubs off on me and helps me to show up in such a conspicuous way that other people might go, I wonder if he's one of those guys. I wonder what is so different about him. See, later on, the council sends Peter and John kind of out into the hall, like you do with your teenagers. So, send them out in the other room so you can talk about them. They do that. This council sends these guys away and says, we want to talk about them. And then they call them back in, and this is what it says. It says, they called them back in again and commanded them not to speak or teach in the name of Jesus anymore. But this is what Peter says. He says, you tell me what's right in God's eyes, to listen to you or to listen to Jesus. You be the judge. But as for us, get what they said, we cannot help speaking about what we have seen and what we have heard. We can't help it. We have spent so much time with Jesus. We have seen who Jesus is. He has impacted our lives so deeply. We can't shut up about it if we wanted to. Those are the kind of people that make great disciple makers. So if we want to be better disciple makers, here's how you do it. Step 1, be with Jesus. Step 2, don't stop talking about it. Step 3, invite your people into step 1 and 2. Like, just invite the people around you to come with you into step 1 and 2. Now, Erin, this is my version of it. Maybe you could unpack that a little more for us and help us with the detail.
But here's how we get practical, because maybe this is where we need to begin. First of all, to be with Jesus would just mean, it's what we've been talking about all summer, to invite Jesus into your daily experience. Like, this has been the work of the rule of life, to have the right pace and the right priorities to support who we want to become. So we have the kind of time and space to invite Jesus into every part of our day. This isn't about manufacturing experiences so we can say we've been with Jesus. No. This is about walking daily, moment by moment with him, inviting him to transform us, to guide us. Any followers of Jesus have stories to tell because they've invited Jesus to walk with them? Any followers of Jesus have stories to tell of the ways that Jesus has transformed you and shaped you, even in the mundane moments of your life? Anybody? Okay. So we should tell those stories about our experience with Jesus. I was like this, and now Jesus is working on me, and I'm becoming more like this. Because have you noticed, we already said this, we really only talk about the things we're excited about. And excited can mean a lot of things. I think sometimes, followers of Jesus, we spend so much time talking about the things that we are against, the things we're angry about, the things we're irritated about, our opinions, our frustrations, the things that disgust us. And Jesus' invitation to us is to speak about our experience with him, the things that bring us joy, the things that bring us gratitude, the things that bring us celebration. What are you excited about that God is up to in you? How's God showing up for you? What rhythm of sharing do you need to build into your life so it just becomes more intentional? So it's like the air you breathe to speak about the goodness of God. And maybe if you're not sure, just go back to step one. Be with Jesus. And of course, use simple tools, whether it's any of the ones we've talked about today or others you explore and discover along the way to help you do this. I just want to remind us, this is not a suggestion from Jesus. It's a command.
Now, there may be some of us who've been leaning into this. Like we've been trying to walk this walk and you've been doing your best and you've been finding your way into some of these things. Let me just push you a little bit more. Let me just give you something that you can be thinking about. Maybe you can ask yourself a couple of questions. Maybe a question like this. What is it in me that should be replicated in others? Like, I know we're not perfect. I know we're all just on the journey here. We're all, continually dependent on God. But here's the thing, sometimes we let our lack of perfection in everything keep us sharing the story of redemption that Jesus is bringing in some of the things in our life. All right, so don't let your lack of perfection and all this stuff keep you from just sharing the things that Jesus has done already with you. What has he been doing in you already that you could begin sharing with others and seeing replicated in the life of others? Maybe some practices that you have been leaning into that you can share with others. And then maybe you can ask this question, where can I just invite others to invite others? Like, where has God given you influence? Maybe you're leading a group right now. Maybe you're helping some others into like a discovery Bible study, those kind of things. And maybe it's time for you to invite those people that you have invited into that group, invite them into sharing with you. Invite them into telling stories to their friends. Invite them to come along the journey of being a disciple maker, a scatterer of seed with you so that you're not the only one doing that. Tell your story. See, here's what I know. I know exactly how all of you who are following Jesus started following Jesus. Now, I don't know every single one of you, but I know how all of you ended up, if you're a follower of Jesus, I know how all of you ended up following Jesus. You know how? Jesus told Peter, and then Peter told somebody, and then that somebody told somebody else, and that somebody told somebody else, and that somebody told somebody else, and eventually somebody came and found you and told you. That's how you ended up following Jesus. That's how I ended up following Jesus. Way back, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, there was a Sunday school teacher who somebody had told him, and that person told somebody else, and that person told somebody else, and eventually that Sunday school teacher told me. And that's how I ended up following Jesus. Can I just say this? Do not let the story of God end with you. Do not let the chain of the story end with your story. Do not keep from others what might be the most revolutionary thing in that person's life. You need to get a picture in your head someday that there will be people who wander up to you when the earth is all settled and it's all done in whatever version of heaven. I don't even understand what it's all about, right? But would there be a line forming of people who would walk up to you and said, I'm here because of you? We want to start a movement around here of people who could trace their faith back to somebody told somebody, and somebody told somebody else, and that somebody told somebody who ended up at that weird church, and that somebody told somebody else, and that somebody told me. And on that day, you will be the most grateful that you didn't let the story of God end with you. That's what we're talking about in being the kind of scatterers of seed, sharer of stories, disciple makers who make others who make disciples.